Well, hey folks, history isn't always what it's reported to be. If you've ever heard a family story that sounded just a little too good to be true, you'll appreciate what I'm about to share. A few years ago, I was in the Four Corners area of the United States at a bookstore that buys my books, chatting with the local publisher who told me a story about a family matter that stuck with me. This guy grew up believing and hearing about a grandmother's cherished shawl, how it was carried across the ocean in the early 1800s, and then carefully hand-carried across the American plains by his loving great-great-grandparents, pioneers. It was a treasured family heirloom, rich with history and sacrifice. Then, one day, while admiring this relic from the past, he noticed something that made him question everything he'd ever heard. A small fabric tag printed on it, on that shawl, as clear as day, were the words, "Made in China." Stunned, he brought it up to his history-keeping, history-making relative, but they wouldn't budge. That shawl, they insisted, was as authentic as was their family history. His response, a warning that I still remember to this day. He said, quote, "Always beware of Grandma's shawl," close quote. Well, that little story is a great reminder that just because a tale is repeated over and over again, it doesn't make it true. And that brings us to today's Twisted Tale. Hey, welcome to Profiling Evil's Twisted Tales, where we dive in to the mysteries around us with a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of skepticism, and a whole lot of storytelling. Now, this series helps us explore fascinating historical cases without the heavy emotional impact, the toll of current crimes. So let's dig into today's topic, the historic Pine Valley Chapel in southwestern Utah. According to Washington County Historic Registries, the Pine Valley Chapel was built by a guy named Ebenezer Bryce, a shipbuilder, back in 1868. The story goes that Bryce designed the chapel's attic to resemble an upside-down ship's hull, using his maritime skills to craft one of the most unique structures in Utah. I personally heard this story told as I sat inside looking at this interior. It was more than 30 years ago that I examined those rafters myself alongside my investigative partner from the Attorney General's office, Lieutenant Matt Jacobson. And Matt's deceased now, but I think of him often. He was a Pine Valley native. He grew up in this area here, and he reaffirmed that the building was in fact constructed by a boat builder. And looking at those rafters, it made perfect sense. And to Matt, there was no other description that could be acceptable. The story had been passed down for generations and was still being pitched by the Washington County historic folks when I last checked the registry just this morning. Now, according to those historic records, the chapel was made from local pine coming from the mountains up here, and I'm going to pan out and let you see how incredible this beautiful little area is. The lumber that was used was sat on top of a foundation of granite and red limestone. Now, Bryce, trained as a shipbuilder, supposedly used traditional shipbuilding techniques, binding the walls with rawhide and assembling them flat on the ground before they lifted them up into place. This is the oldest continuously used chapel in the state of Utah, and they're still holding their regular worship services here every week. But then I started digging deeper into this thing. You see, the LDS Church, their take on the Pine Valley Chapel is a little bit different. So think about Grandma's shawl. That's something that I did, and I went to the official Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints website to see what they had to say about it. Now, according to historian Sarah Zimmerman, Pine Valley was settled as part of the 1850s cotton mission established to provide lumber for the Latter-day Saint construction projects. The sawmills here produced timber that was used in the Salt Lake Tabernacle's organ pipes, in the St. George Temple, and in the St. George Tabernacle. Now, the Latter-day Saint Church's account into this thing also acknowledges that Ebenezer Bryce was involved in the chapel's construction, but it challenges the upside-down ship story. Instead, it suggests that the roof was built using normal building techniques of the time, not shipbuilding at all. So the question for this Twisted Tales episode is the Pine Valley Chapel really an upside-down ship? Or is it just another version of Grandma's Shawl, an irresistible story that's been repeated so often that people just assume it's true? I don't know that it matters, but it makes for such a great story and such a great way to show some really cool places here in Southwest Utah. Regardless of which version you believe, the chapel is a beautiful structure that's nestled in an equally beautiful and peaceful community. But every time I pass through this community, I don't just think about this historic church alone. I also think about an unsolved murder of a woman up on this mountain that my team and I at the Attorney General's office investigated many years ago. A mystery, much like the chapel's origin, that remains unsolved to this day. Well, thank you for watching Profiling Evil's Twisted Tales. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give it a thumbs up, that you click on the like and subscribe button, and that you share Profiling Evil with your friends. And make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you're into audio podcasts and you like podcasts on the go, make sure you're checking out Profiling Evil's audio podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. And if you'd like more updates, head over to profilingevil.com. And while you're there, please sign up for our digital newsletter. It's called the BOLO, and it stands for Be on the Lookout. And the only way you're going to get Profiling Evil's digital newsletter is by signing up at profilingevil.com. And there you can look for other information on story maps, our unsolved and missing persons crowdsourced map, and many, many other things. So from the beautiful mountains of southwestern Utah, just near the Tri-Corner area of Utah, Arizona, and Nevada, until the next time we meet, thanks again. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene.